What happened?
You're gonna need to help us wake Dean up.
Did something happen?
Literally asks the same thing every single time.
Wait, of course something did. Hoss is crying. What did I miss?
Hoss is crying?
Yeah,
Yeesh.
Haas has been crying since the gutting comment.
What a weenie.
He has
For real.
He even has a very sad crying face.
I just didn't even notice. I
You
genuinely.
You really don't
just-
look at sprites when you play visual novels, do you?
I do not. I see
look
them
at
once.
Constantly.
No, I'm here for the text. I don't give a shit about the art past the first time I see it. Like, it just doesn't register to me.
This is why people need to add bounce and squish to visual novels so that you can notice when the gestures change.
I wish there was a
motion.
way. Honestly, so this is actually like a fun thing, but there are some Japanese visual novels where you can turn off the sprites and just see the backgrounds, and I like low key think that's the best way to play visual novels. Like
What the fuck?
I just do not care about the sprites at all whatsoever. I think they're annoying. I just want the prose. I'm here for the writing. Like, the visual aspect of it is cool from a scene setting perspective, but I do not give a shit how the characters look at all.
Well, I like sprites. I pick up on the silent storytelling that happens sometimes when games have the sprites reacting to individual moments as an ensemble.
It's
I think
cool when that
sprites
happens.
are a good shorthand you can do where like a whole cast of characters can be on screen and can be emoting reactions to things that are telling without actually stopping to explain every single person's reactions in text.
I agree.
But
That
doesn't
could
work
be
if you don't
cool.
look at it.
Yeah, it doesn't work if you don't look at it. I think that it.
But yes, Password does somewhat struggle with not enough art, not enough locations, not enough like
Yeah.
puppeteering. So oftentimes characters kind of just sit still for long stretches. Like just kind of like how the music is usually one song playing for hours at a time.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's hard to get all these assets, but this game could definitely use more music.
Yeah.
Even a little bit of that,
Jack.
like it could use a little bit of that Phoenix Wright / Deadly Premonition stuff, where it's like that very specific brand of like, this is the song that plays when funny stuff's happening. Like you have like a bunch of cues lined up for different tones, and like this is the investigation song and so on. And like it's very video gamey, but it does like add like ooh scene shift kind of feels that are
Yeah.
like when I put this game on my, I said this to Toaster offline too, but like I put these videos in our timeline, and sometimes the entire session is just the same song playing for nonstop with there's no use of silence and also no switching tracks for literally hours. And that's some of that's us making it longer both via talking and because we're reading out loud, but that's probably not ideal.
Yeah.
And it leads to an outcome where it's just literally background noise as opposed to signifying something, whereas most of the time across all media pretty much a song starting and stopping signifies something, and the song itself is meant to communicate some kind of character beat or like emotional tone. It might literally be a character's individual theme. It might be the investigation theme, or like the Star Wars main theme, the Empire theme, the Force theme, and so on. And then leitmotifs are involved, and instead we just have a song that communicates nothing and just loops forever. And so you basically might as well mute the game because the audio isn't actually conveying anything, which is rough. Except for when someone gets a gunshot fired once every 10 days.
Yeah. Jack, he's gonna show up in under an hour.
But that's so soon.
Only had 8 days warning.
I need to take a shower and do my hair and makeup.
That's not enough time for breakfast. I don't think they know about second breakfast, Sal.
Made worse by the fact, if Dean's really unconscious, we're gonna need to move him.
Right. I'll go wake him or drag him out of bed forcefully. But what's the plan?
Hiding in the hedge maze, apparently. It was then that Roswell had a second coughing fit, desperately trying to catch his breath.
But hiding is gonna be...
Hard, we know.
If I need to be left behind, I understand.
Okay, well, in the meantime, I have tea, but...
There's no time for tea, Sal! He gestured towards the dining room briefly before looking up the stairs.
If I'm going to go retrieve Dean, if we're gonna be outside, better drink that tea fast, I suppose.
Sal! The tea doesn't matter! Sal hurried up the stairs past where I'd ended up with Haas, disappearing around the corner. Someone tell Benson, please? He might just solve this preemptively. Like, he has a rifle somewhere. There's windows. Like, so how surprising is this guy gonna be?
Yeah.
You literally have warning and home turf advantage, several guns, you have rifles, you have vantage points and windows, you can lie in ambush in 100 different places, and you have a trained assassin with a gun to face off with a rabbit with a knife. Wow, he really goes on a rampage sometimes with his knife.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a meltdown.
Dave, Haas, do you still want tea?
Haas quickly nodded, trying to calm himself while I just let my gaze drop to the floor.
I'll be back.
I'm okay.
Are you sure?
Look, I don't like the idea that we're in this much danger, all right? That rat has to be lying. Dude, you're the lie detector. You should know that he's telling the truth. This is literally your one character trait.
Granted, I don't know if it works on weird robots, but
I
just
don't care
situationally
what it
we know he
works on.
can't be lying, or he isn't on the macro scale. He's not lying because we know these guys are coming.
Yeah.
If he scares you, if he gives you a false alarm scare to get you to fucking finally prepare after doing nothing for 8 days, then he's a hero.
Yeah. Okay. That rat has to be lying. For the time being, that's all I've got. Just trying to trick myself into thinking he was lying. Alright, well, at least he's tricking himself.
Was he though?
He's a robot. I can't be sure. Alright, that's like arbitrary,
Yep.
I guess.
I mean, he doesn't have emotions. They keep saying. So then he doesn't have tells.
But then I thought that they like implied, like one of them thinks that he must have emotions.
I feel like we had a separate series of conversations that kind of implied that he had emotions. Then we had another set of conversations later where we decided he didn't. And I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I feel like both of those conversations happened like 3 days apart in this game and weren't reconciled. But I am not about to like try to find that. So
Yeah.
well, all we can hope for is that we hide in the hedge maze and Jack just comes and goes, right? Sal's getting Dean and...
And Roswell's coughing. What about Benson?
give Roswell the sleep medicine, and then he'll sleep instead of coughing. I don't know, do sleeping people have coughing fits? I feel like a lot of the reflex, I feel like more of the coughing is like this reflex that you have trouble resisting, and it's like slightly more of a willing thing, but I don't know. I don't know, what choice do we have? We headed outside after Roswell brought us tea. I didn't drink much of mine, and even after wanting it, Haas barely drank any. The fresh air would have been nice, but if it wasn't for why we were out here to begin with. Sal had propped Dean by the door, having lugged him out of bed while still unconscious. It looked as though he was, at the very least, he'd not left Dean in his underwear and managed to put some pants on him. Okay, so we're just gonna hide, right? There were murmurs from the others, but we all seemed resolved to head to the maze. They didn't bring a single weapon, didn't they? Not even Dom's gun. that was just established. Not that we had any weapons not that we had anything as far as weapons to use in case the worst happens, but the goal was to be hiding anyway. You're literally creating a scenario where you could hear him coming and know where he'd be coming from, and you know of multiple weapons. I'm just begging you guys, just unbolt that fucking sword you talked about unbolting. With Dean unconscious, Sal had one of his arms around Dean's shoulders to keep him upright. Or maybe it was because of his bulk. It just made him easier to carry that way. Roswell was looking rough and followed behind, but continued on past us in a daze, while I paused to ask just how far we were headed. How far in we were headed. Seemed he'd already decided for us. The middle, yeah. Sal dropped Dean off on the bench in the center of the maze, sitting down on the ground and looking frazzled. No one grabbed the axe. Haas and Roswell chose spots of their own. One in the corner and the other by the fountain, just quietly rocking back and forth. They left me looking at each of them in turn, wondering what I should be doing. But all there was left to do was wait. Sal shifted to be next to Dean, eyes closed and seemingly listening out. The other two didn't move shy of any slight noise making the rest of us jump. Every now and then, something would make one of us jump, but the moment we heard aggressive knocking coming from somewhere nearby, we all almost jumped out of our fur. That was 3 uses of jumped in a row. Roswell went to speak, but Sal shot him a glare that kept him quiet. Enough to tell him that it was a bad idea to make a sound. The knocking echoed over the walls of the maze, but this time was accompanied with a crash. A short while later. No yelling, no gunshots, but nothing but silence afterwards. They literally did not get Benson, or tell Benson, or communicate with Benson anyway what was happening. They didn't grab the axe, which is literally what they were using to stand watch with, so they're presumably planning on using it in this exact scenario, but then just didn't. None of us dared to move, wondering where Jack would be, or what was happening with Benson. A few minutes later, another crash. Something shattered within the house. Then more waiting, minute after minute with no more sound. How long was it going to take before we could go inside? I had my eyes trained on the entrance to the fountain area. We were holed up in case Thanos came to visit. I knew at the very least that he'd be able to work this far out. I clamped my hands over my mouth soon after, though, Haas jumping to his feet with his fur on end, just as Dean started to wake up. It was a gunshot, followed by another, then the sound of something else breaking. Another gunshot, then the sound of what I guessed was a window shattering nearly all at once. The silence that followed was different somehow, heavier, more intense. And I was more scared to make a sound after it than any other point in our wait. What's happening? Sal in a flash had his hand across Dean's mouth, urging him to stay quiet, just from how his eyes were bulging in panic. Thankfully, he seemed to get the message. Haas started to pace, and settled on coming closer to the bench to whisper something into Dean's ear while Sal still got him muffled. My attention went to Roswell, though, who seemed to be half asleep, or zoned out and breathing seemingly labored. It wasn't a coughing fit, but he didn't look okay.
What are you waiting for?
What the fuck do you think? We all jumped when Thanos spoke, making no effort to be quiet. Is it safe? How did you get out here? Shouldn't we be? My hands went to my mouth again when I realized I had spoken, whining out pitifully.
Oh yeah, all the fun is over.
It was enough to make a couple of us relax, but it was far from being back to normal. I missed everything? What happened?
You always miss it when we get to this point, at least ever since we decided to let you medicate yourself. Keeps things cleaner that way.
But what happened?
You'll see when you go back inside. Speaking of, can I get carried back? Walking all the way there is gonna take forever otherwise.
Oh, sure, yeah, okay.
Thanks, buddy.
Haas seemed to have moved on to check on Roswell, and I figured I'd do the same.
That wasn't a lot of noise. So little noise.
Right, what? That's a weird thing to say, but okay. What are you talking about? We heard gunshots. We heard stuff breaking.
It's not enough. It doesn't tell us anything about what could or could not have happened. The only way to know for certain is to go back. Back to the house.
Thanatos could tell us, but he's a prick. He eased himself up from where he was stilling. Sitting? What? Stilling. Is that a term? But it was clear that he was struggling to keep his balance. Without missing a beat, Haas supported him much in the way that Sal had done, with Dean on our way in.
So let's go. Let's find out what happened.
I always think that these transitions like this are such a there's such like a missed opportunity. There could be so much drama here in like paying attention to them be scared and like go through the moment to moment of like dealing with this and navigating the maze and hearing these gunshots and having stuff happen. But this literally progressed in like the course of like 3 scenes. Like not even 3 scenes. Like when I say scenes, I mean like literal dialogue cards.
Yeah.
It's just very weird. It feels like we haven't been out long enough for them to be like,
All right, it's time to go in and see what happened.
Yeah, I just think about how, like, as a group, you would do what you always hear about in, like, war, when you're reading a book about war and so on. We're like, we just sit there for 8 hours in the mud and stuff like that. You expect them to, like,
yeah,
really, really avoid this place as long as possible, at least the whole day, because they don't know what's they're going back to. Like, the fact that Dave was immediately like, I wonder how much longer it'll be before we can go back. And I'm like, bro, you should be planning on not going home today because you're trying to not get caught by the murderers. It's like, oh, sorry, we'll be in now in 15 minutes. They were just very efficient movers. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, they're just gonna, like, they're in a hurry and gonna come and go, and you just get right back in. Like, it's a minor inconvenience, but it's also like, yeah, the scene where they discuss and then don't really plan anything and so on was like exponentially longer than the scene where the thing actually happens, which, like, can kind of always be the case, but, like, much more attention was paid to, like, the people's emotional states and other things like that and storytelling there than, like, them actually living through the scene.
Yep.
And it does leave weird gaps, like, why didn't they even talk to Benson about this in any way or even try to find him, apparently? The lack of getting weapons is just very... Them, especially not getting weapons, just feels a lot like, oh, the author knew how the scene would play out, and they weren't going to be in danger, so he just, like, kind of threw in them hiding and just a minor worry of, like, oh no, what if Roswell gives them away, but doesn't, like, consider, like, they should be preparing for the murderer to arrive. Like, they just have no plan for what they're going to do at that point. It's just a number of strange things. I don't know. The walk back was tense. Also, just among other things, just Dave should just be angrily asking him actual confirmation of whether or not the rabbit is dead or genuinely gone, because the fun is over is a frustratingly ambiguous thing that could literally mean that Jack is still there.
Yep.
The walk back was tense, even with Thanatos riding along on Dean's shoulder. What does that mean? Is Thanatos riding on Dean's shoulder a calming thing?
Yeah.
That sentence doesn't make sense. I was thankful that he wasn't riding along with me, given how heavy I felt already. Thanatos had come to retrieve us. I just had to hope that he didn't lead us right into a trap. Yeah, once again, how is he a counterpoint to tension? The moment we entered the house, each of us froze. The smell was intense. Even without us knowing where it was coming from, each of us seemed to know what it was. Guys?
I can smell it too.
But that smell...
Blood, which can only mean...
Benson?
Not Jack.
Benson? Where are you? Nobody asked this an hour ago. Dean rushed off, calling out to Benson. He moved sluggishly at first, but having only just recently woken up, it was no surprise.
Is Benson dead?
We don't know that. The only thing we can maybe be sure of is that Jack is gone, right?
That'd be a good thing to have confirmed before he started yelling.
Oh yeah, he's gone. Headed back into the woods.
Okay, then Benson's dead, and his blood's on your guys' hands for not even warning him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's something.
What now, though? Hurried footfalls came echoing back to the house before Dean came to stop back in the foyer. His look said everything, staring at Sal before slowly showing him the smears of blood on his hands. He just loves to touch bloody bodies and just get covered in blood every time.
So yummy.
His hands
So
are
yummy
constantly
for him.
covered in blood. They ran off, and I turned to Thanatos. Benson?
Is dead. Yes.
You left him to die? You left him to die.
Oh, geez. I'm sorry for choosing the route that ends up with the least amount of you dead.
You could have joined us in the hedge maze. I know, Dave. Why didn't you?
Nah, it wasn't gonna happen. Not without it ending up in a bloodbath.
Seems kind of arbitrary.
He'd come find us?
There's also a retroactive explanation that doesn't explain why Dave and his friends didn't do it. The most we got was, he's been kind of withdrawing into himself lately, was enough reason to leave him behind, as opposed to Dean being physically unconscious.
You find him, he waits for you in the mansion until you come back, and, well, Dave here is who he sizes up after Benson's dealt with.
You find him, he waits for you in the mansion until you come back. Well, then just don't come back. Why would they go back if he's still...
It's like,
Oh.
it's very weird to be like, this is the path that gets you with the least sacrifices compared to all other possible paths. Anyway, here's how arbitrary and specific it is. Don't think about any other choices that you could possibly make.
Yeah, because it's constantly set up like there's only two choices total or one choice total, and it's like, I don't know, what about the path where you strategically choose the what if you go into what if you like retreat into the woods or the hedge maze or something, and then when Jack goes into the house, you will strategically use that moment to flee the entire area. Like you go down that driveway and get the fuck out of here while he's in the middle of the house, and he will, and like, will he come to this very specific conclusion that you fled down the road of all places and aren't still hiding somewhere? Probably not for a while. So that's actually maybe the best opportunity to get the fuck out of here. There's like so many things you could come up with. They could have hidden in the lab vault, like I said, which locks and seemingly they can't get into, as far as I know, and they don't have any reason to think they can. And it's a vault.
Yeah.
They're so helpless. And for the audience, yeah, I fully understand. Most people aren't really prepared to, fight someone to the death, and this is a terrifying scenario, but they're just immediately resigned to it in so many ways, and they're not even like considering the idea of like they'd literally rather roll over and die half the time than even consider the idea that they might have to collectively defend themselves against one guy.
Yeah.
So if what Thanatos says is true, Benson's dead, and on top of that, Jack and Memphis are still out there.
Are we confirmed that Memphis is actually out there?
No. I mean, out there is in like the earth. We have physically no clue who is actually in the woods or not, or where they'd be staying. I don't imagine they're just like camping in the woods. And frankly, it's very hilarious if they for some reason feel like they have to hold off against us collectively as a group because they're so afraid of us, because like They've been waiting for like a week now, and these characters have zero defenses against them or intent to do anything about them. So like, I have no clue why this overwhelming, threatening villain force, the Ginyu force out there of iconic OC designs is just waiting forever. Because I don't imagine leader of the entire Dragon Mafia, cool boy, important dude is just like sitting in the woods all week. I don't know what he'd be up to. So if anything, it feels like he's not there, except the road's blown out, so that makes it tough to get here, but maybe they have an alternate way in set up, but is that what happens? Does he arrive on day 30? Is that the timer?
This sucks. They could be back at any moment.
You don't need to worry about that. They're not coming back.
Spoilers.
What?
They're not? Why?
Well, not right away, anyway. They still want the vault, after all.
It'll be at least another week again. That's just how they work for some reason. You get one rabbit per week.
How much time do we have?
You have time. What were you wanting to do this time around?
If you tell me I have enough time for some sleep and for us to make some sort of escape, I'll take it.
Everyone just slept. I swear to God. We've been awake for like an hour, I think. 2 hours? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's been a very long time. The very quiet, grim calculus of this scene that isn't being openly acknowledged is that, like, they were like, no, we can't sacrifice Roswell. We'll sacrifice Benson. That's just the facts behind the characters right now. He's kind of withdrawn lately. We should leave him to die.
That's all you want.
You mean via the main road, or?
It's the only way out we've got.
You think everyone's gonna make it out?
We have to try, right?
You're right. Given everything that's happened, we can't afford to wonder if there's a better way out and just take the one we know.
You can't mean now, right, though? Or you can't mean now, though, right?
Like I said, you had time. I don't think Sal or Dean are in a position to go climbing a mountain now of all times anyway.
Why not
Why?
Sal? What condition is Sal in? Dean's like groggy, I guess. I feel like that should have been. He probably should be past that by now, honestly. But I don't know what Sal is referring to here. I'm also just taken aback that here their immediate response to being attacked by Jack is to flee. Like, immediately. They're immediately considering that. But they received almost the same stimulus a week ago and didn't do that. Like, they were already attacked by Jack. And the same thing happened again. He didn't get attacked by... They didn't escalate to more guys. I mean, they escalated in that they came into the house and killed Benson, obviously. So, like, they can't hide behind Benson. But was the idea of hiding behind Benson the entire reason they hid? Like, I guess. But I'm just... For me, it's just, like, vindicating. And that I was like, why the fuck aren't they running? Get out of here.
Yeah.
You got attacked by a guy. And now they're like, we should. I think we got attacked by a guy. We should run. I'm like, yeah. I said that 30 hours ago. It was the same guy. Yeah.
It's extremely frustrating.
Right.
I can hear Roswell taking another deep breath, ragged, and it looked like it hurt. Maybe we leave tomorrow? Use today to just rest up? You've been sleeping for 4 days, Dave. I don't know if anyone can sleep more than this.
Can we afford to wait that long?
Last time you waited 24 hours to leave before after a rabbit attacked, a road exploded.
It's true. That is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
You're looking at needing to wait for Dean and Sal anyway.
Why? Is it just the fact that Sal... Wait. I guess they mean their reaction to seeing Benson's body. I guess, is what Sal is incapacitated by. He's like distraught off screen somewhere. Because I was like, nothing happened to him specifically. Thanatos, when is the soonest we can leave? I can't completely neg these people, because if I had some kind of omnipotent fuckhead weirdo robot thing that sees timelines, I probably would be trying to gauge my decisions based on the data they provide. But I would be a bit more worried than they are that his data's bad, because he does just manipulate people.
Yeah.
He looked me over carefully, looking briefly to Haas and Roswell before turning back to me.
Early tomorrow. Just make sure Dean doesn't have medication and you'll be able to leave.
That seems easy enough, especially if we can get Sal on board.
What about me? Do I need medicine or anything to be able to leave the mountain as well?
No. You'll be fine, I think.
You think?
You need sleep more than anything else. Get some of that and you'll be fine.
I mean, you're still dying, but...
Oh, okay, sure.
For now, I have somewhere I need to be. Where? Or where? If you must know, I need to go run a check on things in the lab. I'd offer for you to come, but there's currently a corpse in it.
So we just wait? Also, shit, we forgot to put that one in the freezer. We just standard operating procedure except for that time.
Yes. Oh, wait. I'll be around later in case you had any questions for me.
He constantly has to go off and do something suspicious, which feels like a way of just having him exit the scene, but always making it sound like he's doing something important. But there's relatively little room for him to actually be taking any actions because the narrative moves so slowly that, like, what could he really possibly be up to 90% of the time? To the point where I think that he just likes to act mysterious, but he's actually just going back to his, like, lame-ass charging port.
Yeah.
He just has to go over there and just shove a USB up his ass or sit on a weird, like, what looks like a fucking, like, lizard heat rock, but it's his fucking, like, phone charger pad.
Yes. I'm pretty sure you are correct about that.
Yeah, I think he's trying to be mysterious about just a basic maintenance of just being a fucking
needing to
battery-powered robot. He scurried off soon after towards the basement, leaving the three of us to linger by the back door as we had been. Tomorrow. Huh.
Sleep, though. He says it like it's gonna be easy. 4 dead people in the house. Well, I guess 5 now. Just feels so wrong that there's just as many dead here as there are alive.
I don't think it's healthy to think of things like that, but I agree. If tomorrow is the day, then that's great news, right?
Yeah.
You don't sound convinced.
Just going home is all well and good, but what about Tyson? What about Orlando?
Well, we can't, you know. We'll come back for them, don't worry. We'll contact the police, pick them up and give them a proper burial and just put all this behind us.
Now imagine that was in Haas's voice. Okay.
Oh, that was Haas. Oops, whatever.
I've confirmed it. Sorry I took so long.
So he's really...
Yeah, there wasn't even a point in trying to attempt resuscitation. What time we took was to just get over what shock of what we saw.
It was that bad.
You know, I think part of the problem that I'm experiencing right now is just that, I think I talked about this before, but like, save the colors of the names, almost none of these characters have unique voices. And I don't mean like our voices for them.
No,
I mean like,
you mean like they don't speak in different voices.
yeah, like they don't have like, I'm not even talking about like
it's kind of like how they
right?
all have the exact same quirk of like they specifically always like will say one statement and then like explain that statement with the exact same language as each other. Like they'll like I forget the exact way it keeps happening, but it's like, if only blah 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 or something like that. Like they almost always they all pretty much speak the exact same way. They all over explain like logistics and planning in the exact same way. They all like go through emotional crises, but then just like explain exactly what they've been up to for the last 5 minutes in a very calm and detailed bullet pointed list. Like they all have the exact same way of speaking almost every single time. Yes, like they're very noticeably all written by the same author, and that they didn't really know how to actively make them all different besides the times where it's time to specifically express their personality. Like Roswell's always a smartass and Dean is a flirt sometimes, and Sal is not emotionally aware or socially aware. But they all talk the same way the whole time. So it's like the same person having those personality traits and switching between them.
Yeah.
It was that bad?
It was that bad. Dean's still pulling himself together.
Sal, are you able to ensure that Dean doesn't take medication again?
I suppose that's doable, but may I ask why?
Thanatos says we can leave early tomorrow if he doesn't.
Unless that's a trap.
That's great news.
What? I'm so confused. Sal, you've been able to leave this whole time. Your options for leaving have not improved in any way. And we also know that Thanatos can't see what happens outside this mansion, so we don't know how it goes. So Thanatos is not in any way guaranteeing any kind of safe passage. He just gave basic logistical advice of like, yeah, they're not coming back yet, and you probably should like actually all be able to walk, you fucking weirdos that just cannot get things straight for 24 hours. That's it. That's Thanatos' input.
Yeah.
Then yes, I'll ensure he doesn't.
Okay, that's good.
Did he say anything else we should be doing right now?
Not really. Just prepare to leave for tomorrow.
I suppose I'll relay that to Dean as well, given he's a bit lost as to what happened.
Just think about how much like Thanatos has just obliterated the data. It's useless.
Yeah.
Like I 100% understand the idea of why he would be required not to interfere in order to not ruin the data, which makes me wonder why he introduces himself in the first place into the narrative and isn't just like a weird enigma we get during bad ends for a few seconds and be like, what the fuck's up with this weird rat that knows the timelines? So like he literally becomes more prolific in the narrative than any of the actual route characters, even including the one you're with. And at this point, he's got them all just like baby want bottle, like, they literally will not think or take any action without his input because he's the master deity that knows all the timelines. Like, he's interfered while saying he shouldn't so much that they're completely dependent on him for any decisions, because everyone in this entire game is against the idea of having any personal agency and is just begging to be told what to do. And it's like, what the fuck was Thanos doing? I don't understand.
Yeah.
How does he ever pretend that he doesn't interfere?
Completely.
I peeled away from the group and made my way upstairs. If we were leaving, I wanted to make sure I had anything important that would be best to take. This included Tyson's phone from his room, along with some other bits and pieces, admittedly for selfish reasons, but beyond the necessities, I just wanted something to remember him by. But when I got to Orlando's room, something was amiss. As if someone had been in here. Someone other than Orlando. I couldn't place how or why, but it just didn't feel like how Orlando would have left his room. I wandered over to the bed and cautiously reached out for a folded piece of paper left upon it. As I opened it, I was greeted with a messy handwriting, as if it were done in a hurry.
I know what you did.
Was it something that Jack left behind? What could it mean? Either way, I continued by picking up Orlando's phone, a few trinkets, and one of his favorite shirts. A few things had been shifted, but as far as I could tell, nothing seemed to be immediately missing. Maybe someone was just in here looking around, maybe something else, but it wasn't as if Orlando were around for me to ask. So it sounds like they don't know Orlando's dead yet, because they might be reacting very differently if they knew that the boss's kid was dead. Although it sounds like Orlando's in trouble, which might explain why he dies in a drive-by shooting in the other ending.
Yep.
But what the fuck did he do? I slumped against my bed, sitting on the floor. They were gone. It was one thing to grieve about Orlando and Tyson right after they'd been killed, but it was hitting me again, and hard. For the next couple of hours, I sat there, sobbing off and on. Part of me wanted to stay and be around things that reminded me of Orlando and Tyson. Another part wanted me to be anywhere but his room. But the constant reminder of them existing was something I'd feared I'd lose if I got up. Am I insane, or did Dave not know shit about the Dragon Mafia?
Dave doesn't know anything about the Dragon Mafia.
And Orlando's his best friend.
Yeah.
Okay.